Hello, boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen. It's Saturday evening, and see what time it is. 6:15 p.m. And I got to tell y'all, this is like my first date in 2.5 years. The reason I say that, when I got out of the shower a minute ago, I said, I'm gonna put some of that cologne on, and I did. And the only time I ever wore it is back when I was with the wife, and I realized that that's crazy. But y'all are my first date, and let's see, February of 23, she passed, and so this is the first time I've had a call for cologne, and the reason is I wanted to smell it myself. Anyway, today has been a little bit everywhere. I've checked out a lot of videos. I got some calls from the daughter. In fact, the phone's probably going to go off here in a minute. The granddaughter is playing soccer now. The grandson played this morning, and she sent me videos and clips of it. And now me, I've been watching different videos, and one of the ones that I want to bring up is John, who does talks about the great event of marriage, and wait a minute, maybe the greater event of divorce. But anyway, it's really funny. The one that I tuned into, it was short, but it had to do with respect. And it brought to mind an event that happened to me some 50 years ago. There was a bunch of us from work, and we would go over to a place in Kemah, and we'd have dinner on our days off. And there was this one couple, and the wife, and don't ask me why, but this is just how it worked. Whenever she got around a group of people, she would just really tear in to my friend. And he's putting in 60 to 70 hours a week and doing everything he can for her. And he was a good guy. He's passed on now, but she would just tear him up in front of people when there was a group setting. And when it was just a couple of, the wife and I there, that didn't happen. But it would be in these group settings. And I thought, man, talk about. And anyway, this one night, like I say, this had happened a number of times. And we were at Landry's, and she started in, and about halfway through, I got up. Y'all are probably going to think I'm disrespectful, and it was none of my business, but I did it anyway. I stood up, and I called her out, and I said, it's amazing. He puts in 60, 70 hours a week, and we get out in these. We're here at this restaurant here tonight, and you're just tearing him a new one. And I called her name, and I'm not going to say it now, but I looked over at my wife. I said, her name was Jackie. I said, Jackie, and I looked down at my friend, and I called him by name. I said, you got to live with this, and you've got to put up with it, but I don't. And I told my wife, I said, honey, let's go. And we got up, and all the others are looking at me like I'm some kind of idiot, and I didn't really care. But I realized I didn't have to participate in that kind of crap. And anyway, that was my deal on respect. And I always felt so bad for that guy, and he never would stand up for himself. We got back out at work. He got me alone, and he said, I appreciate what you did, but next time, just let it go. And I said, well, hopefully there won't be a next time when I'm there, because she knows how I'll react. And sure enough, that never did happen again. And so that was that. And then I have one other little short, and I'm going to tell this story. The reason I'm wearing this hat tonight, this is going to be rare, because I always wear a cap or my bandanas or whatnot. But I want y'all to see. I don't know if y'all can see it good, but there's a story to this hat, and I want this story told. I want this story told so that one day, when the kids are looking at that hat, they'll know the story. I was going to the doctor, and it was early in the morning, and I got to this stop sign, and there was a line of traffic in front of me, and a school bus had broke down, and there was a convenience store to my left, and I thought, well, I'll pull off in there, fill up with gas, get a cup of coffee. Well, as I pulled out of line, a lady darted across and pulled out in front of me, or was going to, and I just swung around her. Anyway, I park out by the pumps. She pulled right up in front of the building, and as I was walking in, there came a railroad line of profanity. I mean, she knew every word I knew and then some. And she called me everything, and I never said anything to the lady. And I just kept walking. And I got inside, and she was right on my heels. And the same game. She just kept cussing me, and the more people that started looking, the worse it got. I never said a word. I just went over to the coffee pot and fixed my coffee, and anyway, it was just four kinds of that word and a bunch more, and I didn't help things. I couldn't think of, without getting in her world there. And I leaned over and I said, I don't know if that's your kids or grandkids in that car, but you ought to be really proud of yourself. Really proud. I mean, you didn't miss a word that I know, and then some. And anyway, well, that didn't help things. So I turned around to walk away, and I got about 3 steps, and that's when it happened. She got her coffee, and she poured it all over this hat and down my back. I don't know how many of you have had boiling coffee poured down your back. And out of instinct, I swung around. I had my coffee. I swung around, and when I did, mine hit her straight in the face. And that ended that. But now and the 2 ladies running the register come running back there, and there's 2 fellas at the counter, and so I go back over, and I filled my coffee back up, and they're all raising heck. And now I got everybody after me, and I got my coffee. And I mean, I've already been through this, so I walk up to the register to pay, and the lady said, "If you'd have done that to me," and I said, "Ma'am, how much I owe you?" And she said, whatever it was, $2 or $3, and I put it down, and she said, "You better be glad you didn't do that to me." And I said, I said, "There's something that some of you ladies need to learn. Keep your hands to yourself, and there won't be near as much problem." And with that, the two fellas, older guys at the corner, they come around, they start coming around the corner, and I told them, I said, "Fellas," I said, "I don't want any problem. I've had enough." And I said, "But I want you to know one thing, so we don't go any further. I'm carrying, and I don't want to go there." And they both did. They backed off, and they went back into the little restaurant part of this convenience store that they had. Anyway, I got in my my truck, and I got on down to see my doctor. He was about an hour and a half down the road. And the nurse said, "You smell like coffee." And I told her the story, and she said, "Really?" And I said, "Yeah, really." I said, "I want this story told." I said, "You'll get respect when you give respect, and when you and we're starting to see this in a lot of different places, but this karma stuff, it comes around, it comes back at you." And anyway, that's all of that story. But I've got to say this, because FedEx is due out here any moment. Last week I ordered some Avery business cards, perforated. Well, they couldn't find me because I'm in the woods, and I had to reorder. And a young man called me about 2 hours ago named Jonathan. "Hi, Jonathan." Anyway, he said, "Mr. Bennett," he said, "we've talked many a time." I said, Yep, I know." He said, "They can't find you." I said, "I know." I said, "Just tell them to call me." I said, "And I'll come down to the highway and I'll drive them in." And he said, "That'll work." Well, anyway, he and I got to talking about different things. He said, "How old are you?" And I told him, and he said, "Well, you sound a lot younger." And I said, "Well," I said, "I feel a lot younger than what I am." But anyway, I told him, I said, "Hey," I said, "you ever get on YouTube?" And he said, "Yeah, all the time." And I said, "Well, you need to go on there." I said, "I got a channel. I just started." I said, "I'm going to make a video later." And I said, "When I do," I said, "I'll say, 'Hello, Jonathan.'" And I've got to say this now, because I told my buddy, the first one I made, I would say, "Hello, Carl." So, hello, Carl. And anyway, this is number 4, I believe, or 5. But anyway, there I go again. It's time to get off here. I'm starting to repeat myself again. But it's sure been a good week, and I hope everybody's having a great day. And I've got to say, offended outcast, Sammy, your puppy, Sammy, that was so wonderful of you, what you did there. That really touched me. Taking that puppy in like you did, and been doctoring him and making the kennel and whatnot. Anyway, I love seeing stuff like that. And and I can't forget this. I got to say it. And he probably just soon I didn't, but I'm gonna. Rob the Maritimer, buddy, I love your moves. I wish I had the music going. Anyway, I just loved your dancing, And that was so cool. I got to find out how to put music to the background because I love that kind of stuff. The music really helped. I love that. And anyway, it was really fun watching you the other day, and you were break dancing, and it was a lot of fun. Well, to all my friends out there, and like to say the ones that aren't my friends, I love all of you anyway, and I know this has been a little different in my video take, but you know, there's a couple of stories that I want noted for the future, and to highlight so that people will know who and what I am and what I'm about. And it is about today, yesterday, and tomorrow. And I'll leave y'all with this. Remember, if we ain't having fun, it's our own damn fault. And I love y'all. Take care now. Bye-bye.